Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I got a big pile of logs here. These logs came in the fall time and they were meant to be put up there, but the log truck got stuck coming up the driveway and he had to dump them here because he couldn't go forward or backwards, which was a little disappointing, especially given how much we paid him. So these logs are going to be turned into timbers for some of the projects I have around here. And the first project is the woodshed, the timber frame woodshed that's going to go up by the house. Currently, we still have the existing little woodshed that I used when I was staying in the cabin when we were building this place. And it's not only does it look crappy, but it's too small. So we got to get something bigger, and we're going to make it look nice too. So to address that problem, we got to get these logs onto the sawmill, the first thing. So I'm going to forge some log tongs today. So the idea is on the front of the tractor, there's going to be two tongs that you put down on a log and they'll close up, and then you can pick it up and you'll have nice control over it, and you can set it onto the sawmill like that. I can use that for firewood too, which would be great. So let's get at that project. I've looked at a lot of log tongs online. You can buy them, from Amazon, Viva, and a whole bunch of sources. I have a lot of material here, so I'm going to forge them up myself. Now, the first step in doing that is getting on the computer. You don't need to do it on the computer, but you'll see why it's better to do it on the computer. And the software that I have can make sure it works. So let's go down into the nerve center and we'll have a look on the computer. In the software I used, I drew the shape, and then I can make it into a 3D object as well. And then I needed a second part, which was this, the same issue, and then I can assemble those together into this. And this allows me to move it around too, so I can see where you can see right at the top there, it's not going to go any further than that. It will on the software, but that's going to work out all right. From there, I'll go back and print this in real size and then cut it out, and then we can transfer it to the table out in the shop. Now, because my printer is 8.5 by 11, I had to split the part into smaller pieces and print it out and then tape it together so I could get a full representation of its size. What I'm doing now is determining the length of piece of material I need. So I'm going to use a piece of string to help me with that, and I'll put the string down the edge of the material and then measure it out on the table. If I wanted a very accurate measurement, I'd actually run it down the middle of the piece of material I'm going to use, because that would be the accurate measurement. But for the purposes of this, I just need to get it close. And then I'm going to be adding about 16 inches onto the end, because when I'm heating this piece of steel up, it's going to be about 1500 degrees, and I don't want to grab onto that too badly. So our piece is going to end up being 43 inches. The material I selected for this project is 1/2 inch by 2 inch flat bar. A lot of the ones that I saw on Amazon were 3/8 inch by 1 3/4 inch, and some of them were like 3/4 inch round bar. I think this profile will give us a lot more strength and give us the ability to pick up larger logs. Now, as we are making 2 pairs of tongs, we need 2 pieces each, so that's a total of 4 pieces at 43 inches. And then for the little top pieces, they're 5 inches long, so we'll also need 4 of those, for 2 for each pair of tongs. This is our little forge that we're using. It's a propane forge. As you can see, it's plenty hot in there, probably around 2,000 degrees anyway. When we put a piece of cold steel in like this, it's probably going to take 4 or 5 minutes for it to heat up and get to a point where we can bend it easily. In the industry, when you're bending a piece of steel in this way, it's called the hard way. If I was to flip that piece of steel 90 degrees and bend it against a different profile, that would be called the easy way. Here I'm bending against a cross section of 2 inches, whereas the other way I'd only be bending against 1/2 inch. Now when you're working a piece of steel at this temperature, it tends to deviate a little bit, so just tuning it up with the hammer each time to make sure it's flat when it goes back into the forge. That way when I take it back out of the forge, it's ready to go and ready for a bend, and I don't have to waste time, and time is heat, trying to get it flat again before I actually start doing some productive work on it, i.e. bending. When you're doing this type of work, it's beneficial to make small movements and go back and check against your template frequently. If you have to bend it back the other way, it never seems to just be quite the way it was when you bent it in the first place. So it's better off to take baby steps. It's inevitable that you'll end up with a piece that doesn't fit inside the forge anymore, so it's fine to let it hang out the side like this. It still gets plenty of hot inside, maybe not as fast as it would if the door was completely closed, but it still works pretty good. The one thing you have to be careful of when you're removing the piece of steel from the forge is that you don't hit the insides with it. It's just made up of a fibrous wool, and especially when it's hot, it breaks up, and then if that wool is gone, then the fire will start to consume your forge, and that's definitely not what you want. You can see as the piece of steel cools down, it really does not want to bend. And I'm just looking for that, just a few more little degrees here, and it's being resistant. I might add at this point that my table does weigh 1,200 pounds and it's not bolted to the floor. Not even the steely will of a homesteader can move it. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to get a little bit of an extra mechanical advantage on things, so you can just give it that last little tweak. This is mild steel I'm using, and it cannot be hardened. However, it does seem to toughen up a little bit when you throw it in some water or some ice just to chill it down at the end. That's one piece done being forged. The next piece, I'll speed it up a bit and let you enjoy it through the magic of time lapse. It's time to put some holes in the forged pieces now so we can assemble them. So I'm going to lay my template back on. I don't think you can see it there, but there is little circles on the pages. So I'll center punch that, and then I know exactly where to drill. Ensure that you have a good grip on your center punch. I'm just going to mark the spots with the drill initially, and then I can put some oil on it to provide a little lubrication for the cut. You may notice when I'm drilling, I back the pressure off frequently, and that's so you don't end up with a very long, stringy piece of sharp steel flying around. Every time you back it off, it breaks that chip. Now we're on to drilling the small pieces that go at the top. The one end is going to get the, I think we're drilling 17/32 to accommodate the 1/2 bolt. Now on the other end, you can see that big bit. We're drilling 7/8 of an inch just to open it up so the shackle can go in there. These bolts that I'm using now are 1.5 inches long. I'm going to be using a 2-inch bolt on the final assembly with a lock nut on it to make sure that that never comes undone while I'm using it. That could be a bit catastrophic and dangerous at the same time. I just need to trim off the ends so they're square, and then I can build the teeth that are going to go on the end, and those teeth that will dig into the logs. This big beast of a piece of steel is 1.5 inches, and this is what we're going to use to build our teeth with. Each tooth is going to be 4 inches long. The tongs don't need to touch in the center because I'll never be using them to pick up a piece of wood that's that small. Here I'm using the belt sander to flatten each side. You'll see how I develop the profile of the tooth. That's one tooth done, I just have to cut it off. As with the forging, I left the long handle on it so I have something to work with. Now I gotta clean off the scale, off of the tongs, and off of the individual teeth. This will allow for clean welds to be put onto it. If you don't take the scale off, you can often end up with porosity in your welds, which causes weak welds. It's always good to make sure your welding helmet's on tight. I always start it with a couple small tack welds, and then I can go back and weld it solid without the two pieces moving on each other. Well, that should be about do it. That's one pair. I'll have to forge up another pair. I don't want to bore you with those details, but since you've seen all the steps that I've done, I measured it and it will allow me to pick up to a 27-inch log. And that's more than adequate. My sawmill can only handle logs up to 22 inches in diameter, so this will be perfect for that. Once I get the other pair forged up, then I'm going to make a mounting system to go on the front of the tractor, and that'll be in the next part. So make sure you come back and watch that. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you really liked the video. And if you could subscribe and share this in your social media. And give it a like, a thumbs up there too. That would really help. Something wrong with my thumb there. But you get the idea. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again.